My parents spent $43,000 on my sister's wedding and $0 on mine, so I uninvited them 3 days before my ceremony. For years, I watched them fund every detail of Emily's dream wedding while telling me they'd help with mine when the time came. When I got engaged, my mom said they'd set aside money and to send them my venue options. I sent 3. She responded 2 weeks later, saying they looked expensive and maybe I should consider a backyard wedding to be practical. My sister had a ballroom at a resort with 200 guests. I pulled up my parents' Facebook and scrolled through albums from Emily's wedding. A photo of my dad handing the venue coordinator a check with a visible amount. Posts about the designer dress fitting. My mom's caption under the floral arch photo that said, "Nothing is too much for our girl's special day." I screenshotted everything and made a folder. Then I opened my banking app and saw that my fiance and I had already put down $8,000 of our own savings for a venue that seated 80. My mom called the next week and asked if I'd chosen a date yet because they wanted to mark their calendars. I told her June 14th, and she said that was lovely and she couldn't wait. I asked if she remembered mentioning they'd help financially. She paused and said, "Times were different now, and they'd already stretched themselves thin with Emily's wedding 3 years ago." I said I understood completely. My dad texted me a week later asking if I needed help moving chairs or setting up tables since we were doing something small and simple, like I was throwing a barbecue. My sister called me the next day and said mom told her I was being difficult about money and that I needed to understand weddings are expensive. She said her wedding was years ago and I shouldn't compare. I told her I wasn't comparing and she said good because she'd hate for me to ruin my own day by being bitter. My mom sent me a text 2 months before the wedding that said, "Your father and I would love to sit in the front row since we won't be walking you down the aisle if you're doing something non-traditional." I didn't respond. 3 weeks before the wedding, my mom called and asked what she should wear because she didn't want to clash with my colors. I told her anything she wanted would be fine. She said, "You're being so relaxed about this whole thing, and it's wonderful to see you're not stressed like Emily was." 2 days later, my dad emailed me asking for the venue address so they could put it in their GPS and show up early to help. I sent him the address. 3 days before the wedding, I called my mom and told her not to come. She laughed and said, "What do you mean don't come? It's your wedding." I said I meant exactly that and they weren't invited anymore. She said I couldn't uninvite my own parents and what would people think? I said probably the same thing they thought when she posted 47 photos of Emily's wedding and 0 of my engagement. She went silent and then said, "You're being completely unreasonable and hurtful over something that happened years ago." I told her it wasn't years ago. It was right now when she asked to sit front row at a wedding she contributed nothing to. My dad got on the phone and said, "We raised you better than this and you're embarrassing yourself." I said I was raised to watch one daughter get everything and the other get advice about backyards. I hung up. My sister sent me a paragraph text calling me selfish and cruel and saying I was tearing the family apart over money like some kind of shallow monster. I replied with the folder of screenshots showing their $43,000 in posts and checks and said, "Not about money, about who mattered." She didn't respond. My parents showed up at the venue anyway on my wedding day and my coordinator told them they weren't on the list. My mom screamed that I was dead to her. My dad told the coordinator this was a family matter and to get out of the way. Security walked them out. I got married in front of 80 people who actually contributed love or money or time. My aunt posted a photo of me and my husband and my mom commented, "Weddings without parents are just sad."